We'll kick things off with our first subject of the day. Little discussion between me and you. Was WandaVision an awesome kickoff to Phase 4, or was it an awkward kickoff to Phase 4? So you, obviously, we just put up a quote where you said this was pure brilliance. Mm-hmm. So clearly you absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
My take on it, I don't know where I stand on it. I'm certainly not throwing any shade at it, but it's not what I signed up for when I got invested in the MCU.
Yeah.
It's such a departure from sci-fi action, spy thrillers, where it's always action-based, and then this kicks off. And we're not going to go into any spoilers here, but, you know, if you want to know absolutely nothing, I don't know why you'd be watching this, but I mean, it's legitimate sitcoms, like legitimate. We've seen the first 3 episodes. They are sitcoms from each decade, from the 50s, first episode, second episode, 60s, third episode is the 70s. And they're fully embracing the style. And that's what the episodes are, with these little moments of intrigue hinting at the bigger picture. So for me, I think I'll go with the position. It's an awkward kickoff because there's no transition, because we're able to binge the whole season. So we kick off and we get these 2 weird episodes, or for us lucky critics, 3 episodes with no context.
Yeah.
To me, it's awkward to tick it off that way. Not throwing shade. This wasn't their original plan. It wasn't even their backup plan, really. But I think it's, considering everything that's come before, it's a weird place to start.
Yeah, and I definitely see where you're coming from with that. And like a lot of the criticisms of what I've seen so far, I think are valid. I think what's probably the most valid statement is that it's really tough to judge a show like this off of the first 3 episodes. That's not even half of a season. Usually when critics get screeners to review, television, they get half of the season. And then when the show catches up, they get the back half of the season, and they're able to sort of piece together like full pieces on it. That did not happen with WandaVision. It doesn't happen with The Mandalorian either. The Mandalorian critics don't get screeners for. So, but that's a little bit different of an instance. But in terms of this show, I get where you're coming from. And I think it comes down to, are you on board with watching these really like otherworldly, just wacky sort of sitcom scenarios, knowing that there's going to be something at the end of the tunnel, that there's going to be this, big climactic conclusion at the end of the tunnel? Are you okay with watching these scenarios and these actors just like completely dive into them in a new way and really like stretch their chops and their abilities as performers in like as these characters like we've never seen them before? Are you able to get into that? And if you are, you'll probably enjoy it a lot more than most people. Everyone I have talked to who is not a part of this online film discourse and community, like my parents, girlfriend's parents, her friends, my friends, all that stuff like that, they all like it, but they're really curious to see where it's going to go. But they're on board. And I think that's a good sign right now. They built up enough intrigue. There's enough there to like get people like, okay, so what's the outside world sort of like trying to come in? How did they get here and all that stuff? And I have no doubt that it'll all be answered by the end of the show. But based off of, the season premiere that we got, I can understand why it would be a bit awkward for people. That being said, just in terms of like kicking off Phase 4, I actually like this better than kicking off with Black Widow and Falcon and the Winter Soldier, just because I think there is a clean enough break from what happened before. So we wrap everything up with like Spider-Man Far From Home, and like there's sort of the conclusion of the Infinity Saga. And I think that year that we had off was really nice padding, because it provides that space that we needed, the distance that we sort of needed from that epic conclusion. And with WandaVision, we're jumping into something different, something new. And we still have the baggage of what's come before, especially with, Wanda's trauma and Vision dying and all that stuff like that, which I'm sure the show will explore. But then we get to these episodes and it just feels like a fresh start. We're going in, it's a bit disorienting, but it's like really intriguing. And I like that.
Yeah, I try to think the difference between my take on it. Like my feeling on it was like, okay, this isn't really my thing. I'm so invested in this universe. I'm curious. I'm enjoying it enough. Of course, I'm going to watch all of it because I love the MCU. I want to see where this is going. I do enjoy the mystery. This just isn't the thing I would immediately rush out to check out inherently because of what it is.
Sure.
So that's kind of my just default take on it. My wife likes 50s, 60s sitcoms quite a bit. In fact, over the last couple of months, she's been showing my kids episodes of Mr. Ed. Like, she's even trying to introduce my kids to old sitcoms. And so she's a little bit more kind of the target audience that would enjoy this sort of flavor of things. So I watched the first 3 episodes with her, and she was like, I guess it was enjoyable enough. I mean, it was kind of interesting. And so I was like, I mean, but you like this sort of thing more than I do. She's like, I guess. I mean, it's a nice novelty, but, you know, it's like a one-off. And then she was also like, she's kind of the casual fan. She's, of course, seen all these movies and enjoys them, but she doesn't know it like me and you do. She's not in this world. And so she didn't remember that Vision had died. Like, she didn't remember. Of course, she's seen Infinity War multiple times. As soon as I said it, she was like, oh, yeah, of course. But she didn't remember that. And so even on that point of, like, average Joe, a new Marvel show, and they start watching it with no transition. That's somewhat where I'm kind of approaching this one. It's more of a thought experiment for me of like, I don't know, is this the right way to do it? Will it be too alienating? Will too many people confused? Like, I had a bunch of people DMing me like, dude, I don't understand. Is this set in the 1950s? Like, I thought this was set in the year like after Endgame, but why is it in the 50s? I was like, no, they're in a sitcom. They're not actually in the 50s.
It's an alternate reality.
Yeah, it's like, it's not that at all. And they're like, I don't understand what's going on. I was like, well, you're supposed to be confused. You just have to wait. But so that's where I just wonder if
just going off of that point, I was going to say that I think that's why this almost would have been better had it dropped as an entire series and not a week-to-week sort of thing. That was sort of my biggest thing. I mean, even after I finished the 3 episodes, I'm like, oh, okay, all right. I was really, I want to keep going, you know?
Right.
And I feel like this kind of show also like encourages rewatch. Like, how many people have already rewatched the first 2 episodes already and are just like dissecting it for theories or something like that? If you had dropped this as an entire series, you know, I mean, I don't think the conversation would have gone away. It still would have been there in the zeitgeist. And I understand them wanting to do the week to week because, like The Mandalorian, it keeps people talking, it keeps people guessing, it keeps it going until March, which is when that show's going to end. But for just in terms of like, you know, initial impressions, yeah, I think maybe people would have been more receptive to it had it dropped in its entirety on Disney Plus.
That's what I said in my initial reviews as well, of like, this is the nature of this show as just inherently what it is, as with this kind of this intrigue. You're watching, it's like weird, and you just jump into the deep end and you're like, I want to know more. I want to understand what's happening, as well as it being the kickoff of Phase 4, this thing that has a built-in audience and so much demand. It doesn't feel like a week-to-week show to me. Yeah, if it had just been a sitcom, like purely a sitcom, like just Wanda and Vision trying to domesticate sort of thing, then yeah, sure, week to week, that's fine, because the consequences are very, the stakes aren't big. There's no overarching story. It's just a novelty sort of thing. But that's not the story they're trying to tell. Right. So we had a super chat coming from Shashank. He said, "This is a show I enjoy more while I'm thinking about it, what's going on, rather than something I enjoy watching it based off the 2 episodes." And I like rewatching it. I think I enjoyed it the second time a lot more, because watching it the first time I was like, I'm watching a sitcom, and then I reveal some things. When you watch it a second time, you immediately realize every line of dialogue has 2 meanings. Yeah. Like, they show up and they're having a discussion in the first episode about trying to remember what's going on. That's a normal sitcom situation. And then you realize, no, that's tied to the bigger thing as well. So everything has a double meaning. And so I think it really does reward multiple viewings. Yeah. And here's something, as we've mentioned multiple times, we've watched 3 episodes. The 3rd episode gives a pinch more of the bigger picture. It addresses things more directly, but it's another sitcom. It's another sitcom episode. Yeah. This one in the 70s, very kind of Brady Bunchy type stuff. But it's a sitcom. That's primarily what it is, just a pinch more like I've had people in my comments like, dude, you've only seen 3 episodes. You don't know, like it's not a sitcom. These are sitcom episodes. I don't even know why you're arguing with me. If the last 3 episodes turn into spectacle CGI, fair enough. But what they've shown us is a sitcom. What they're giving me to talk about is a sitcom. And it's a very interesting. It's a bold move. It certainly has my interest. I can't wait till I see the next episode. And unfortunately, we have to wait even longer.
I know, even longer week. Yeah.
But to me, it's a very awkward way to kick things off because I think because of the week to week in particular, it feels like we're like just watching a sitcom. Like I'm once again curious, what are people going to respond when they waited another week and they get another sitcom episode that just gives them this much more?
I think people will respond more to next week's episode because it does bridge the gap between the wider outside world and the fantasy reality that Wanda has created, because I think episode 4 is actually going to deal more with stuff that's going in, in the outside world. And you'll see when you see episode 3. But I think people will respond to that more, especially because we now know that she's pregnant. And so obviously episode 3, they're going to deal with her pregnancy and stuff like that, which is a big thing that people, Wicket and Speed from, the Young Avengers being able to see that whole, the birth of those characters and everything and what's going on with Wanda and Vision. I think people will respond to that a little bit more. You also probably will get some more confirmations as to like what's the outside organization and stuff like that. Yeah. So,
but it's a sitcom episode though. If you're waiting for it literally gives like it addresses things this much more. It like progresses things, but it's the plot of it. It's a sitcom plot. What another one?
Well, but here's the thing. So it's got a budget of $250 million, which is massive. Like that's ridiculous. Especially when you compare it to like other shows, more.
I've heard that some speculation that article confused their numbers because the budget is $150 million, $25 million per episode, and it was originally a 6-episode run, and then they just multiplied out the 9 times 25 to get $225 million. So gotcha. I've heard that might be exaggerated, but correct. $150 million budget. Somewhere this money's going to show up somewhere in this season. It is not in the first 3 episodes.
Well, and the other thing I think is like I think that the end of the season, we're going to get like some climactic episodes that are probably going to be like hour-long episodes. Like we might have 2 hour-long episodes. And so that'll definitely sort of like give the people their fix, the people who want the spectacle, the action and all that stuff. So.
Right. So, yeah, I don't know, like I'm invested. I'm so curious as to how this will keep it. Week 1, people seem to be more into it than I was expecting. I thought there'd be a little bit more pushback. I thought I'd see a few more hate comments. There's a few here and there. The worst thing the MCU has done. Like, what is this? I saw some of that, but mostly people were pretty positive about what they did with the show. And, some people in the comments are saying, hey, don't spoil the show. Everything that we've mentioned is in the trailers. We haven't said nothing. Like they're like the thing that's closest to that would be saying that she's pregnant. That's in the trailers. They show her pregnant in the trailers.
That was also in episode 2. But.
Like they reveal that in episode 2. So, but if you haven't seen any of it, we're not saying anything that's even not in the trailers. So we're trying to be very careful on all of that. But so you would say, because we have to make this as polarizing as possible, it's an awesome kickoff. It's something different. They need to experiment. We don't need to play it safe. This shows us this is a bold new direction for the MCU.
Yeah, dude. I mean, absolutely. Like this is so different from anything this cinematic universe has done so far, and that's what I want to see from Phase 4. I want to see big swings like this, even if it doesn't work all the way. At least it was different, and they tried. And I think that's the biggest thing that I can say. And for me, it's working right now. Like I think it is legitimately really well written, really smart, incredibly well acted, and it authentically captures like the snapshots of these sitcom time periods that they're trying to emulate so well. And so like it's just a case where the writing, the directing, the acting, the overall vision for the series is operating on such a high level for me. And it's doing something interesting. So, yeah, I mean, like, listen, that's what I want to see from Phase 4. I don't want to see safe bets. I don't want to see like, you know, Iron Man 2s and stuff like that. I want these massive swings, and so far I'm getting it. So
you don't feel like Iron Man peeing his pants was a bold enough move?
That was, well, it was
a choice.
It was a choice. Yeah, I certainly not what I expected going into that movie, but
I think that's the thing that you just have to give them credit.
Oh yeah,
this is as crazy bonkers. Like, they were criticized for playing it safe, and they are doing something different. Now, all to that point, some people are trying to use that. Like, why is it everyone's saying they played it too safe and they do an experiment? Now some people are saying this is too weird. Let's be fair. There's a big jump without a transition. So like, just because someone wants them to experiment doesn't mean they'll like every experiment or every experiment will pay off.
Right.
But for me, I certainly appreciate that they're doing something wild and different. I hope it pays off, and I'm sure it will. I mean, especially just knowing enough of the rumor mill, this thing's probably going to pay off in big ways. Daniel Skinner once again chimes in with Super Chat. Thank you so much. Since I have very well known the House of M comic, I can point out references in the first 2 episodes that definitely point in the direction of House of M. And without even saying too much more about that those little references and stuff continue in episode 3. There's a lot of things that when you rewatch it, in light of knowing where episodes end, in light of where the second episode ends, in light of where the third episode ends, and you rewatch the first episode, you pick up on a lot more Easter eggs. That's where, like, for me, rewatching it the second time to write notes for my spoiler reviews, it was just Easter egg hunting, just noticing every line of dialogue. And I even missed a bunch of stuff because it is jam packed with references and more.